Okay, so today I'm going to do a content breakdown on Tweeks, which is a UK retailer of motorcycle gear, motorcycle parts, motorsport and automotive performance parts, and tools and things like that. Before I get into their overall content strategy and really break things down, I want to kick this off just with the top three quick improvements. These are things I see a lot of brands do and that I noticed on Tweeks' blog, which is actually quite good. We'll get into it. The top three quick improvements I have for Tweeks is one, to move up the product CTAs on their blog posts. So like they have a lot of these best of category roundup articles that are really solid for conversion, but they don't put the products up front. And I found on our blog that when you put the products up front, you have a quick comparison table that is not just a 10% increase, it's like a 10x increase in the conversions that you get, because a lot of people, they're just coming here for the recommendation. They want to look at the products themselves. They're not necessarily going to read the entire article. And I see like here that they're saying, if you're just looking for top picks, they're at the end of the guide. Fact is, most people are not going to see that. They're going to scroll and go, I don't see any recommendations, and they're going to bounce. So having that right up front in a table like we have here, where we're giving several recommendations, we're comparing them, pros and cons, and telling them where to buy that product, that is huge for conversion. So that's the first thing, moving up product CTAs. Second thing is buy intent keywords. So I see a lot of this informational type of content, like how to choose wheels, what is in this brand, understanding tire markings. That's really good for top of the funnel content, but a lot of what I will talk about on the stream is bottom of funnel content. So you may have a lot of people interested in the brand through this higher funnel content, but how do you get them to actually convert and want to buy products? And a lot of that is just creating the right content for the right step in the buyer journey. So how to choose wheels for your car is very top of funnel, where people are they're trying to figure out, what am I looking for? And then lower down might be best car or best tires for VW Golf. And you have 5 different recommendations in there depending on how you drive, where you live. So that's sort of the difference between that top of funnel, bottom of funnel. And I think Tweeks is missing a lot of those buy intent, bottom of funnel keywords. And then the third thing is to marry video and blog. So this is something I noticed a lot.
I'm Sam from
on Tweeks. They have a really good YouTube presence. They do a lot of short form video. They have great content. Like, for example, this simple guide to perfect wheel fitment, really well produced, nice and brief, gets to the point and covers all the different points. They also have this article, How to Choose Wheels for Your Car, which was also published a week ago. This was published 2 years ago. So one thing that I do a lot on our blog is embed those videos into the content. And I see a lot of brands where they have a video team and then they have a blog team and they don't speak, but everything is just content. Both of these are content, and to the searcher who is looking for, how do I choose wheels, how do I understand fitment, they are going to be looking for one or the other or both of these types of content and will find value in both. So why not interlink them? Put this article in the description here and say, hey, if you want to read this, go to this article. And then in the article itself, have that video right at the top. If you want to watch and listen, here's the video. It does huge things for time on site, especially for blogs, to have videos embedded in there. So I'm going to say marry video on blog. It's about time on site. It's also about repurposing, which we will get into later. So those are just 3 really quick improvements, but I want to get into all of that, as well as just a bunch of other things that I think Tweeks can improve on, and some strategy changes that I would make. By the way, my name is Evan. My team and I run a motorcycle blog that brings in 250,000 visitors a year, and the average page on our blog sells about $2,000 in gear per year. And that's, again, per page. That's not the overall blog. The overall blog sells over $500,000 in gear with informational content only. So my team is now offering the skills that we've developed in writing content to brands like Tweeks to improve their content to drive more results for their brand, not just revenue, but just general love for their brand, community around their brand, educating their customers and educating the market so that they can dominate their industry. So if you're interested in that service, just shoot me a message. My email is in the description down below. On to the breakdown. So I'm going to go through a couple things on this breakdown. The first is just the opportunity. What is the whole opportunity that Tweeks has, which is it's actually bigger than you might think because they have some interesting new product lines. Then what's working in this space, and based on all of that, the opportunity and what's working well, what do I think Tweeks should be writing about and what should their pillars be for their content? Then we're going to go through some fundamentals. This is where I think most of the edge is for Tweeks, is just in improving the content that they already have, which is great because when you have to write new content, you have to wait a while for Google and for AI search to pick up and start to use that content and trust it and show it to people. But Tweeks already has content that's been marinating for a while. So if they improve some of these pieces with a couple of best practices, they can see immediate return on investment. Like these best scooter tires. I mean, there's a lot of things that we'll get into here that would make this article so much better and so much higher converting. So we'll get into fundamentals and then a 90-day plan for them. So first, the opportunity. So Tweeks covers a lot of different topics on their blog. They are mostly focused on motorsport, but they also cover motorsport being like cars and car tuning, but they focus on motorcycles, not just gear, but maintenance as well. And then they also focus on sim racing, which is not really covered in the blog, but they do have a lot of content on it. They have a lot of YouTube content on it, and I think it's also an opportunity for them. So the opportunity size, the way that I like to gauge this is by looking at a keyword search tool and putting in some general terms and just seeing like what is the search volume, what are people searching for. So I'm looking in the United Kingdom since Tweeks is based in the UK, but you can also see global search volume here much, much higher. So in the UK, just for sim racing alone, you have 50,000 searches a month. A lot of that is going to be branded as well. And then for global search volume, it is 10 times that amount. So if Tweeks is also focused on sending product to Europe, which I know they do ship to Europe, then there's going to be some more search volume there for them to get. So just rough napkin numbers, I'm going to say that they could possibly capture around 100,000 searches a month just on sim racing alone. In motorcycle gear, a lot bigger. Global search volume is 2.3 million. Search volume in the UK alone, 333,000. Obviously, some of this is for branded like Sports Bike Shop, which is one of the bigger retailers. So you have to discount a little bit for that. But take 100,000 from sim racing and add another maybe 200,000 for motorcycle gear, you're at 300,000 searches that they could be getting. And then car tuning, obviously there's a lot of different ways to look at cars and motorsport and tires and things that aren't covered, but I just wanted to grab one that I see Tweeks already doing well at, which is like ranking for stage 1, stage 2, and different tuning terms. So tuning, about 500,000 searches, 80,000 in the United Kingdom. I'm going to say that they could maybe get 100,000 of that. So call it 400,000, maybe 500,000 in search volume. And just to level set on what Tweeks is getting now, their blog is getting 4,000 in total traffic. So obviously a lot of room to grow. Their site is definitely getting more than that, but their blog alone, their informational content is only at 4,000. So if you take 500,000 in search volume, about 30% of those people are going to click on position 1. So about 150,000. Let's say that Tweeks is able to get 100,000 more visitors in traffic to their blog. 100,000 times our average page is making 2,000 per year in US dollars. So that is $200 million that Tweeks could be making, which sounds a little bit big given that Revzilla is making like around 100 million in revenue, I think. But Suffice it to say, the lost revenue annually is very, very high. So I'm going to say that they're at least 5 million in lost revenue. Opportunity size about 400K search volume per month. And the problem identification. So what is Demon Tweeks falling short on? I think they are actually doing a really good job on topic coverage. Like we've already opened up a few of their articles and seen what they have, but just scrolling through some of their top pages here, what is stage 2 tune, how to increase horsepower. These are really good informational posts, oil viscosity explained. And then they also do have some middle of funnel, bottom of funnel content like best car mods, motorcycle battery charger, sim racing seat. These are people, when they're searching for this, they're looking for a product, they want to buy a product. So they do have a pretty good strategy covering a lot of different products. I think what they're missing is the bottom of funnel content across their domain. So they have selected articles. A lot of them are more middle of funnel, like best car mods, where people aren't necessarily ready to make that purchase. They're just learning more about different products in the space. Versus content as well works really, really well, especially for retailers, to take two products that are often compared and just create a comparison of them and talk about the pros and cons, which is better for who. This type of content doesn't typically have very high search volume, but it's extremely high buy intent because people are down to two options. They're ready to buy. They just want to know which one is better for me. So versus content, big opportunity that I will get into later. But overall, I think the biggest thing is that they're missing is that bottom of funnel content from a strategy perspective. But then looking at the actual content, this is where what I said earlier about moving up product CTAs and some of these different changes to the content itself, I think will have an immediate effect on their content. So optimizing CTAs, engaging intros. This is a big one that I talk about in the fundamentals section below. I'll go into more detail, but having a really good intro is super important. You need to hit on a couple points so that people stay on the article. So a lot of people will see it immediately. They're judging it by, am I getting the information that I need? Is this the right place for me to learn about this topic? And if they're not learning that within 2 or 3 seconds, they're out. They're back to the search result page, and that's sending a terrible signal to Google that your content's not useful. So really good engaging intros, that's super important. I'm seeing pretty good voice and other fundamentals covered here. Some better bolding and scannability. I think this is another thing that I see missing a lot in brand blogs. It's just content, just walls of content and then occasional images. Also, what I call informative images versus these sort of inspirational images. Like, this looks very cool. I want to be in this sim, but it doesn't give me any information. And having like diagrams or for instance, this beautiful picture of this, having arrows that are pointing to this is what this does and why we chose to highlight this sim racing wheel versus another is because of these features on it, and showing that visually so it's very easy for someone scanning through the article to get a lot of value out of it. So I think that's just a couple of the major problems that I identified with Demon Tweeks content. What is working in the space? So to do this, usually I look at competitors. And for Demon Tweeks, I looked at a few of the biggest competitors in this space and just want to outline what is working for them. So Revzilla is a huge retailer in the US. They have a blog called Common Tread. They do a really good job of blending editorial and e-commerce, where they will talk about products in an editorial way, but then remind shoppers throughout that we are selling these products. So that's one to study for sure. Sports Bike Shop, which is another UK retailer, they do a really good job of these advice hubs where they kind of do videos, they do articles, covering different topics. And this is one thing I saw missing from Demon Tweaks as well. It's just a better organization around their content. They're throwing out a lot of articles, but being able to organize it not only for customers coming in who want to find out more about motorcycle helmets and breadcrumbing them through different guides until they're ready to buy, but also for search engines and AI crawlers to understand the authority on your site and the topical, what we call the topical map. Like you have a guide on motorcycle helmets, and then that links to best modular helmets, best sport bike helmets, all these other different how to fit a motorcycle helmet, different related categories of information around that all link together. Having a page like Sports Bike Shop has and this very clear hub structure really, really helps those crawlers and people understand the content that you have and get the value that they need. And then eventually for a retailer like this, get the sale. And then authority engine. So for this one, I want to talk about Bike Social. Bike Social is very, very good at building authority. So they do these really in-depth product reviews where they will look at like the best airbags, and they'll do both a video and let's see if I can just pull up the airbags one. They do both videos and articles. Most dangerous airbags, interesting. But yeah, you can just see from the topics here, they're doing reviews of individual jackets and shirts, and then here we have a big roundup, best motorcycle airbags. And this links out to all of those individual reviews and really builds authority for Bike Social that they've done all of these tests, they've looked at all these products, this is what they think of it. I think they could make it a little bit more visual and a little less dense, but the content is all here and the details are all here. So they do a really, really good job of building that authority and showing that we really know what we're talking about. And then the final thing is product-focused editorial, which I'll come to our own site for this, having upfront very clear and segmented recommendations for different riders and different riding types. So like in this case for Bluetooth half helmets, we know that the person who arrived on this page, they are interested in a comm system and they are wearing a half helmet or they want to buy a half helmet. So the first thing that we do, we give them the best overall, which is the Senna Cavalry. It's the only half helmet that I know of that has built-in Bluetooth. It's extremely well reviewed, has great sound and microphones. But then if they already own a half helmet, they're not probably going to buy the Senna. So what's the best option for them? That would be plugging this Senna SPH into their existing half helmet. And then a DIY setup, if they don't have a half helmet yet, but they don't necessarily want to buy the Cavalry, you can get the LS2 Rebellion and plug in the Senna SPH. So we're kind of, without even having to say it sometimes, splitting customers into different buckets based on their needs or their implied needs based on why they came to this article. If they came to Bluetooth half helmets article, we know they're not looking for a full face helmet, so we're not going to recommend that or recommend to that type of customer. So that also works really well, having this kind of product focused editorial. So pillars, as far as what I would focus on with Demon Tweaks content, I think they are doing a good job producing the content and picking the topics really, which most blogs that I look at are not good at. Like they do have a good spread. As I said earlier, I think they could do more bottom of funnel content, more versus content, and closer to the conversion. But I think as far as the pillars, they kind of have it covered. Motorsport, performance, motorcycle. They could be doing track day and motorsport. They could be breaking out motorcycle gear and parts, performance car tuning, and then adding sim to track, which they have a sim academy already on their website. But from what I could see, they have a couple articles like best sim racing, but it's not a category within their blog. They're not covering sim with their blog content just in that academy. So I think they could do a lot more there to build out different content about sim racing, get people into sim racing. So drop in those pillars here. So track day and motorsport, like own the UK track day journey, from license to kit to circuits. Motorcycle gear and parts cover the safety regulations, the different products, airbags, as well as jackets, helmets, all the normal stuff. Tire fitments, legal stuff, make it UK specific or EU specific. Performance car tuning, so they have a lot already on wheels, exhaust, suspensions, and tie that all to their top SKUs. The great thing about being a retailer as well is they already understand what's selling well, which makes creating versus content much easier, or makes rather prioritizing versus content much easier, because you can see what are people really buying, what are the top sellers that maybe we need to be comparing. And then sim to track as well, like leverage the Sim Academy and build out content around sim racing and then taking sim to the track. Really applying what you learn in the sim on the track. So fundamentals. So this is what I mentioned earlier, that I think this is the biggest area for Demon Tweeks to improve on. Engaging content. Like having engaging content published with consistency. It seems like they are publishing pretty consistently. I mean, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, 2 months ago. If this is, I'm assuming this is sorted by recency. Really, brands can, it is. Brands can post multiple times a week. You can post multiple times a day. You're not going to get dinged for doing that by Google or AI crawlers. They want you to be creating content, especially when you are a business like this. You are a retailer that sells products, that's been around, that has social channels. They want you producing content because they see you as an authority. So you can post as many times a week as you want. For Demon Tweeks, they're already posting a lot, so I don't think it's going to take long for new high quality content to get indexed, to rank, and to start getting visitors, which is great. So very much lowers the ROI, or lowers the time to ROI. What I would do with their content, like I said earlier, moving up the CTAs, having more informational product or informational pictures, creating tables like we have on our site out of this so that people can see the products, they can see some comparison rather than just a description of each product, which product is better for which type of rider or which scooter or which needs, having that all broken out. The SPEAR intro, which I talked about this earlier that I would get into. So SPEAR is an acronym for search intent, here it is, pain points, expertise, audience, and rapport. Basically, those are the 5 things you need to hit on within the first 2 or 3 sentences to draw in the reader and prove to them that this is where they should be to learn about this topic. So you can read more about that in this article, but I love this article and this framework. We've found massive, massive gains in time on site and lowering of bounce rate by really focusing and dialing in our intros. Which I can give you an example here. Like, half helmets are all about freedom until you try to talk to someone. It's hitting immediately on the pain point that a rider has with half helmets, especially when it comes to comms. Boom mics whip in the wind, audio turns to static, and the connection is constantly dropping. It's a constant problem with Bluetooth half helmets. And then we just get right into the main recommendation, which is just get a center cavalry 2, drop all of these issues. So immediately we've built rapport with the reader. We've shown them that they're in the right place to learn about this problem because we understand the problem, and then we're getting right into the recommendation, like within 3 lines. So customer perspective, I think they're doing a decent job of this, so I won't go into that too much. Internal linking, that comes with the hub strategy that I talked about, or the pillar strategy, where for this, for example, the best winter scooter tires, this would fit under, or possibly in multiple hubs, could fit in a winter hub where you're talking about winter gear, winter parts, winterizing motorcycles, but it will also fit into motorcycle tires. So an article like this, best motorcycle tires, this I would think of as a pillar article that's foundational to the blog. And then underneath that, you have different articles like this is great. They're linking to another article about motorcycle tire sizing and another article about how to change your motorcycle tire. So it's clear they're already getting this this strategy and doing a decent job of it right now. But things like the scooter tires, that should all be interlinking. Like if you're looking for tires for the summertime, here's best motorcycle tires. And it's not just for the users, it's also for Google to understand the different topics that you're covering and how things relate to each other. So I think that kind of covers engaging content. I say this on every stream, but if you're not producing high quality content, you're damaging your brand. I think Demon Tweaks is doing a pretty good job with their content. There's just a couple tweaks that would really level up their conversion rate, but they have the information in here. It's entertaining, it's detailed. So I think they're not really hurting themselves with their content right now. There's just a lot of opportunity to be driving more conversions, and very, very easily. And I found that this took me on our blog to do, our first 50 pages. I just picked like the top 20, and it took me a day or two to just put those product recommendations up front and literally increased conversions by like 10 times. So it's very, very simple things that you can do to really drive a lot more return. And the final thing I would say about this is just create a brief or a template incorporating all these best practices so that when a new writer comes on, or even with your existing writers, they know exactly what is expected of a really good article, and that you're hitting on these points constantly regardless of the topic that you're covering. The content strategy, already went through this a little bit. I think they're doing a great job with covering the entire topic. They could be adding more about sim racing, like I said earlier, but they're doing well there. Repurposing is something I see they have a very strong short form video strategy here that's all over Facebook and Instagram. So they're doing a really good job with that. But interlinking and using the blog to feed the video and video to feed the blog. Like with our site, we have a great workflow where we can put in a YouTube video and get out an article. So we can take YouTube videos that we're creating, like reviews of products, and immediately create an article out of that with very little time spent. Just allows you to repurpose your content in different ways. And for Demon Tweaks, email, social media, ads, all these different channels can be fed by the content that they're creating on the blog. And then measure and iterate. So super, super important to do a regular review. We do these quarterly, but you can do them monthly. You can even just do them annually. Figure out what content is driving traffic and conversions, and then adjust both the strategy and the template to adopt what is working. So if you're seeing certain types of content rank, focus more on that content, create more in that area, go deeper in that area. And then if you're seeing other stuff not doing well, audit why it might not be doing well, or just don't focus on creating that kind of content. Again, this is how we got our blog from per visitor earning pennies to selling over $2 of gear per visitor to the website. And that includes the people that, coming and bouncing immediately, that's per visitor to the site. So 90-day plan, what would I focus on? The first thing is build out a strategy of bottom of funnel content. That being built out, I think would drive so much more revenue for Demon Tweaks, and does not take long to do. I mean, they can take their blog and all the content that they've created and create product guides based out of that and versus content very quickly. It'll take a few days to create this strategy, and then it's all about executing it well. Creating a template with best practices for highly engaging content that converts. This will be iterated over time. So you just need a start to this. What does a template with best practices look like for really high converting content, like moving those product CTAs up? And then rewriting, or rather reorganizing, existing bottom of funnel and middle of funnel content to bring CTAs forward. Give searchers the products they're looking for upfront with easy comparison tables, just like we have on our site here. having these nice comparison tables or product displays, and I can recommend the tool that we use for this, these nice product displays that just give quick information for people who they just want the answer. They're coming there, they want to know what are the best tires for my bike, or what is the best helmet for me. And the great thing about what Demon Tweaks has now is they have this content already. They have people coming to these pages. They have the information there. It's just a matter of organizing it around best practices. And I think they would see huge improvement in time on site and in conversions and sales. Cool, just checking my notes to see if we have anything else. I think that is about it for Demon Tweaks. The next thing I would do is identify someone on your team or an agency like ours to handle this build out. Because a head of marketing, other than giving some feedback on the strategy, should not be involved in the nitty gritty of getting this executed. Again, this is what our team does extremely well. We build out these templates. We do this for brands as a business. So if you're interested in that, drop a comment or shoot me an email. My email is in the description. So that is Demon Tweaks. Thank you for watching.